Here is a look at your gap and go trades for the week of May 27th through the 30th. I will go over 8 tickers on the 5-minute time frame, have a gap recap from May 19th through the 23rd, and update the chart as well. Hi everyone, it's Dow on the Dow. First up is Tsly. We ended the week at $9.10, and that is down 0.22%. To the north side from where we are takes us to resistance, and that is roughly 926. This is also a potential take profit area and a potential sell limit area. To the north side of that at 3 standard deviations takes us to 934, to an area we've been to before in 2024. And should we be so lucky as to get to this level, that would be $9.42. This is a potential sell area. Now to the south side, we're very close to that. That would take us to the middle of the trend at 909. Last week we started over here at 905 for the middle of the trend. So we're slightly upward, but overall for the channel, the range, this is going down on the 5. Excuse me. Now, to the south side of that, ignore all the other horizontal lines. That would take us to roughly 892. I bought in at 892 back on May 15th, but ignore all the horizontal lines. Most of the horizontal lines are either the middle of the trend, which is now turned into either resistance or support. -2 standard deviations and another potential buy-in area and a potential stop loss area, 883. And below that, 875. So this, in theory, could be your buy-in. Oh, did I say sell? No. If I did, scratch that. This is the potential bounce. This is support, 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 and a potential buy-in, 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 or a potential stop loss area if we continue to go down and you bought, let's say, you're trying to preserve your capital or trying to figure out when to hop off. This could be some zones to watch out for. And price always stays within -2 and 2 standard deviations. Now, looking left, you can see from the week prior here to here, this is the middle of the trend. We busted through, hit massive resistance up here, fell back down. Resistance, take profit area. And then if we're going down, that's the middle of the trend and the baseline. This is clear area of support. That is a buy-in, and then a clear area of support here, and then selling up there. And we have a gap to the downside to be aware of that will eventually take us out at 861, and then another one down here. Oops. That will take us to 832. It's not really 832. It's slightly off. It's more like 833. That's... Oh, no. I moved this, it looks like. Let's move this out of the way. Oh, no, that is right. Let me turn on the magnet. So we went up, excuse me. I still have my massive cough. Excuse me. Okay. This closed right there on that line. Yeah, that is 832. That's, why is it 832 here and then it looks off here? But it's right on here. Weird. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to delete this and keep it 833. I'll just delete that. All right. Okay, I think that looks good for Tsly. Oops. The next one is Boeing. We ended the week at 202.36. Here's a public service announcement. Please read it, pause, whatever you need to do, but take a look at it. All right, we are at 202. Oops. Oh, that's the gap. I forgot to mark this out. Oh, wait, I did. I'm sorry. 202.36 to the north side. 202.94. This gap closes at 203.21, 203.84, and 204.82. To the south side takes us to roughly 201.04. From where we are, if we go down, we could bounce off of that line. This is support week, or we could grind sideways or continue to follow this down, follow that pattern. 199.12, 198.24, and 197.28. From last week, from here to here, note the clear buy-in. This is support, 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 buy-in, resistance, sell off. This is, if we're up here and then we hit this line, this is a support line and then we bounce, but it didn't go anywhere. This is support, 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 sell off, sell off, sell off. All right, we've got a gap that almost touched, but it didn't. That'll take us down to 198.62. Still in play for this week. And this gap that opened out on Monday touched on Tuesday the 20th, so that's no longer in play. Oh, let me see something. It looks like this touched this gap, but it didn't. See the little space between? So that's still in play. And then what about this line? This will take us to 217.69. And what else? All right, to the downside for Boeing, we have this gap, 183.24 to the south side, and then 172.81. And let's move this one. Option R to reset. All right, so this is where we are for this week's middle of the trend. And last week we were here. So we went from here to here, this drop, because of some bad news on Friday. And that is it. The 1-year price target is now 210.88, which represents a 4% return from where we are. And can we hit that? Yeah, but most likely not on Monday. Still in a downward pattern unless things reverse. Next one, Sofi. So we're at 1309. One level of resistance, 1328, 1341, 1354. The middle of the trend and the baseline is now here. Okay, and last week we were, did I mark it out? Yeah, look at this. This is this week, and then this was last week. Look at this drop from the middle of the trend to the middle of the trend. This line is now resistance for us, one level of resistance. All right, let me get rid of these lines. Okay, this is an older one, so let's get rid of this line. I don't need any of the lines, it's just I like to mark it out to see if we retrace to certain areas. 1273, this is a line I drew in 2024 at 1260 and 1246. Last week, from Monday to Friday, support, bounce. This is support, support, bounce. support bounce, but we didn't run that far up. This gap closed, and this gap also closed. We gapped up, so then I anticipated to touch on the way down, and it did right there. That took us down to, oh no, so sorry. This gap right here should be filled out, and it touched right there. So that's the 21st. This is no longer in play. Delete. Okay, so that's done. So we have a gap that will take us down to 1185 and then close out 1129. And then this gap takes us down to roughly 1073-ish. Oh, and apparently I bought some here. Hopefully we don't go that far south. And to the north side we have, what do we have here? This has not touched, so this is still in play for the upcoming week, but we are in a downward channel, as you can see. All right, that's Sofi. Estee Lauder, option R. $64.09, $64.68, and $65.29. The middle of the trend, and the baseline is 62.82. Another level of support, 61.59, 60.95, and 60.31. Looking left, clear area of resistance and rejection here, falling down. Clear area of support and a buy-in. This is resistance up here, resistance. Sometimes we don't touch it, we get close enough, and that is good enough. All right, for the gaps, this baby gap opened up right out of the gate and touched out of the gate on the 19th. That took us to 65.15-ish. This gap is still in play, taking us down to 61.06. And this one, do you guys believe in term limits? I believe in term limits for everything. 68.62. I think the government needs term limits, and so do HOAs, to avoid, whoops, waste, fraud, and abuse. All right, 68.62 is the potential, not in the channel, not in the zone, not even close. And ask yourself, who wants to be in power for 24 years? 24 years. You served a time and a purpose, and the time and the purpose is over. It's like Nancy Pelosi and all those politicians. Trust no one. Okay, what else? So we've got all those gaps to fill to the downside whenever we reverse course. So basically, it looks like all we've done is go up here to go back down. 68, 62 up there. All right, that's Estee Lauder. All I hear are excuses from my HOA, or one of my HOAs. I shouldn't say all of them. I don't have time to get on all of them. I'm just picking one and knowing everything I can about just one. All right, 382 is where we ended. 386, 389, 393. This gap will close out if we hit that level. The middle of the trend and the baseline is 378. Last week we were, where were we? Did I mark it out or did I erase it? Excuse me. Oh, Lordy. Yeah, I must. Oh no, it's right here. So last week, the middle of the trend was here. And this week, the middle of the trend is here. 604, but that's not how far we went down in price. That's just the middle of the trend to the middle of the trend, and we are still trending downward. I have gaps that I need to clean up. So this one will take us to 411, excuse me. This one takes us to 409. This one closed out of the gate on Monday, the 19th. That took us down to $4. Delete, no longer a threat to our account. Obviously, there are always other threats, just not that one. Then there's this threat, taking us down to 383 and then 376. Look at the bounce at support. This is support, support, resistance here. Resistance and a sell-off as expected, chopping sideways, and then always chopping, but yet following the trend downward. So this is this week, and again, last week it was up here. We're still going down. Rivn. Let me speed this along. $15.63, $15.79, $15.96, $16.14. Middle of the trend is right roughly there. Why is that CMO? That's because it's off. There we go. This is one level of support. We could chop sideways or continue to grind down. If we're down here, this line will turn into resistance. Many levels of resistance in between. 1507, 1491. Don't hold your breath for price to get to here. 1472. See, price never wicked down. There was a wick, and I can't remember what ticker it was, and I was going to show you, but now I'm not going to because I don't remember. All right, look at this. What a fall from grace here. So we hit from up down here to up here. This is resistance and a sell-off. But up here is also another level of resistance and a sell-off right there. This is a buy-in area, buy-in area, buy-in area on cue. This gap closed to the upside on Monday out of the gate as well, opened up and closed. That took us to 1580. This gap is still in play for whatever upcoming week that happens to be. $15.32 to the south side. And after that, nothing that I have marked because that's all closed now. So that's good. And what is the 1-year price target? Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. The 1-year price target to the upside is 23 and to the south side 1484 and 705. Did I give you that 1507, 1489-ish, and 1472-ish? I hope so. If not, there it is. All right, Nike. Yeah, I'm giving you my public service announcements. I put in here so I don't forget, but it's got to be done. All right. 6002, 6072, 6125, that gap closes out, and 6183. The middle of the trend is right there at 59.61. Last week it was oh, I think I must have, oh, wait a minute. Okay, this is this week's middle of the trend, and the last week it was here. See that drop down, downward channel, and still going down. And what happened here? Did it touch? Let me make this just a little bit bigger and see. No, I stretched that out and notice there's a gap in here. Nope, not done. Still in play. So let's take this all the way, even though it looks like it did, it didn't. Okay, and then this gap still in play. Command Z. That took us to will take us to 64.95. And then I shouldn't have bothered to draw out these baby gaps to the south side, but it closed right there on the 21st. Took us down to 62.08. Basically, we went up to go down. And this gap will take us to 58.38. 60 bucks. And then we have this gap still in play to the downside. And this one could touch on Tuesday, taking us to 58.39-ish or 38-ish. Okay, that's it for Nike. And one last one. Thank goodness. It's a long video here. I'm boring myself. Okay, here we go. I've marked this out so many times. We make gains and then we bleed out again. But then that sounds like every stock, right? Okay, to the north side, 2040, 2060, 2081 to the south side, because there's always a south side. That's the middle of the trend. Last week, where were we? Right here. So this was last week's, and this is this week, and we're still going down. We need a trend reversal here. All right, and this one is so close to the current one. When did I mark that out, this purple line? Oh my goodness. I marked that out on Monday. Wow, there we go. Finally caught up. Monday, February the 3rd. I'm going to delete that because it is in my way. Geez, look at this. We went up basically to go down, and we're still not done. Here's your buying opportunity if you bought higher and wanted dollar cost average down. I think, what's this one happening? What's happening here? Nope, didn't touch. Still in play. Okay, $23.95, the one-year price target, which represents a 19% return from where we are. If you're not scared to buy the dip, according to TradingView, the analysts, there's some upside potential. All right, that does it for me. That is a look at Tsly, Boeing, Sofi, Estee Lauder, Neo, Rivn, Nike, and Intel. And I also did a separate video for a trader named Miriam. Check out the video on AGRI. I think that is the ticker. let me just see. AGRI, Agri. Yeah, AgriForce Growing Systems Limited. Check it out. All right, that does it for me. Have a great trading week.